Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Art of Creation Homestead. My name is Jason, and we've had chickens for over 8 years now. About 8.5. We adore chickens. We love them. We also did some studying about chickens for a couple years before we even got chickens. So, like, we've gotten about 8.5 years of hands-on experience plus a little bit of extra study time with chickens. So we're fairly confident in our knowledge about chickens. We may not know it all, but hey, we know quite a bit about chickens. And in the course of our time with chickens, we've been asked a lot of strange questions. People are fascinated to know that some of these things about chickens. There's just a lot of things that people don't know about chickens. So today we're going to give you 9 facts about chickens that you may not have known. These girls are much smarter and much more complicated and complex than you may ever have realized. Like, for instance, did you know that chickens eat rocks? In their feed, well, we feed more whole grain feed, but you'll see that there is little bitty rocks in there. See? Right here. We have to put these rocks inside their feed. You can buy what's called grit, okay? It's what it's called is grit. In various shapes and sizes. There's small, really small pieces of grit for baby chicks, and then it gets to be larger for adult hens. That is because they don't have teeth. Alright, chickens don't have teeth, and they have to be able to break down their food. So what happens is, they eat grit. They naturally know they need this grit. It gets down inside their crop, in their gizzard, right? And therefore, when they eat their food gets down inside their crop. It's thrown around in there, and the rocks, the grit, breaks it down so they can digest it appropriately. Without that, they'll have a hard time digesting their food. They'll get an impacted crop, possibly get diarrhea, and it will just affect their overall health in such a negative way that they will not lay as many eggs or as good of eggs as they possibly can. And along those same lines, they actually can taste their food. Believe it or not, they have little bitty tongues in there, okay? And they can actually taste their food. Now, they may not have as many taste buds though. See, that's the thing. We have, as humans, we have 8,000 to 10,000 taste buds. A chicken can have only up to 350, but they do recognize that many different flavors, so they do have things they like. For instance, this chicken right here, while she's going through molt and she's looking a little rough, she loves black old sunflower seeds, but doesn't like oats. When we let them out in the mornings, we give them a treat. Well, sometimes it's oats, sometimes it's black old sunflower seeds. She sees it in the cup, and she's instantly either excited or disappointed, depending on what treat they had that day, because she sees it, she recognizes it, and she's saying, hey, I like that, hey, I don't like that. It's very chickens. Some chickens like everything, some chickens don't. We have chickens that like sweet fruits, and chickens that like bitter greens. And they just vary on how much they actually like each individual thing. Another thing that might surprise people is that they have 24 to 30 different noises they make. They do communicate back and forth with each other. They have noises they make with each other in the flock. They have noises that they make to warn of a predator. There's all kinds of noises, okay, that they make that you just wouldn't understand or wouldn't realize that are very intentional noises and have meanings. What about it? You making noises? Huh? You making noises today, Layla? Are you? What about it, Tootie? Now, obviously, we don't know everything they're saying or everything they're trying to communicate back and forth with each other. Now, I will tell you, I do know what the noise sounds like when they hear a predator, because like if a hawk or an owl flies over, they make the noise and they all pause. Right? They all get still, because that's a warning noise. They do that. But it's a fairly sophisticated vernacular or language that they do have. And along those same lines of communication, they actually can recognize their name. Okay, so a lot of people are going to tell you that you shouldn't name your chickens. It's stupid. They don't know what their names are. They don't understand English. Okay, obviously, I'm not trying to say that, but they do understand sounds. And what it is, if you go in here, speak to one of them consistently enough, and they start to understand that sound you're making means you're speaking to them. Like if I say, Madeline, hey Maddie, she knows I'm talking to her. Maggie knows this is her. Layla. Hey, Tootie. Now, as with humans, different ones have different levels of intellect, right? So some are smarter than others, some breeds are smarter than others, and just individual chickens have different levels of intellect and different ways to understand, different levels of understanding. So maybe not all chickens will always be able to understand what you're saying, that you're communicating with them. But most of the time, if you're hands-on with them like we are, they get used to you and they get used to the noises and the sounds and your actions. And so they do actually recognize the sound that you're saying when you say their name. And continuing with that idea is that they can also recognize up to 100 faces, including human faces. So they know me and Angela. They see our faces. They know. If they don't see us, absolute distraught. Okay, because we have chickens in here that have never known of a day that they haven't seen me and Angela both. So if something happens and I'm not around when they're getting put up, or if Angela's not around when they're getting put up, they get a little weird because it's not the same. They don't recognize, they don't see the humans that take care of them, right? And also it also goes for their flock mates, especially their flock mates, is that they do know who belongs in their flock and who don't, right? So some people will teach you that if you're going to mix in new members to the flock, you just take them in there at night, and the chickens wake up the next day and don't know who's supposed to be there, and so they just see another chicken there and they think, ooh, okay, they're supposed to be here, because they don't remember from the day before. They absolutely do remember from the day before, and they know who's supposed to be there and who's not. There's a pecking order, right? So there's a pecking order, and so there's a boss, there's a second in command, there's a low man on the totem pole, and there's everybody in between. There's levels to this stuff, right? That's what they say. There's levels to this. Yeah, there's levels to this thing in their pecking order, and so they know who belongs where, who's here, and they have buddies. They do have friends. They will build a bond with each other, especially if they start roosting or sleeping beside of each other, right? They start to build that bond, a rapport with each other, and they have to have the same chickens sleeping next to them almost every night. They really get used to it, and that's just part of it. And they can distinguish predator noises. They will alert to a hawk being in the area far before I will ever see it. I've watched it happen. There could be a hawk like in one of these trees up this way, and they know it's there. I cannot see it. It's hidden in the tree, or over here in one of these trees. They will know it's there, and they'll pause, look around. You can tell something's going on. They know it's there. If there's a stray cat walking through between the privacy fence over here, they know it's there. I can't see it, but they know it's there. They really are very intelligent when it comes down to these things, and that's something that you may not know. And they can see in ultraviolet. It's a very strange thing. So they can distinguish predator noises, but they can also see ultraviolet. So like when they're very good wormers, okay? So like they're really good at hunting worms. They'll go through the yard, especially in the spring. It's not so much now, but in spring when it's nice and when the ground's wet and everything, they can find a worm. They can search around, beaks to the ground, pounce, pull a massive night crawler out of the ground. And the only way they can do that is they see the little tip of it sticking up, because the sunlight is ultraviolet. It's reflecting off of it, and they see that and helps them hunt worms. An interesting thing you may not have known is that when they're hatched, they have all the yolks inside of their bodies they will ever be able to lay in their life. Now, they may not lay all those yolks, but that's the maximum amount they will be able to lay. And it's like yolk embryos, so obviously the yolk you see out of the egg is much larger than they can fit in their bodies when they're babies. But it's like a yolk embryo. So they have all those things in their bodies when they're born that they will ever be able to lay. So therefore, that's how you get some chickens that are better later than others, because they just have more in them. And the last thing is something that I get questions on every year, and sometimes from the same person each year, is that, what do you do with your chickens in the wintertime? Don't they get cold? Do you put heat on them? And the answer is no, because did you know their body temperature is 105 degrees to 107 degrees? Up to possibly 110, some people will say. Okay, so it's at least 105 degrees. They can handle the cold weather. They can handle the cold weather. It's actually heat that they struggle with more, heat and humidity. So they can handle the cold. Minus 20, minus 30. It's cold. They know it's cold. Them little boogers can handle it. They're built for this. They're made for this. Their feathers and the fat cap on their skin and their internal body temperature is all there for a reason. It helps them deal with it. Now, certain breeds deal with it better than others. And that's just how it is, because we're the same way. Certain people deal with certain things better than others, right? The living beings that God created are all different. But as a whole, chickens can handle some cold weather. So I hope you enjoyed this little fact check session about just some chicken facts that you may not have known. Something we love. I want to nerd out on it all the time, and I'm always more than happy to talk about it with anybody that'll listen. Even if they don't want to listen, I'll tell them, hey, be careful. You're going down a rabbit hole that you may not know how to get out of. So thank you guys so much for watching. I do appreciate it. My name is Jason. This is Art of Creation Homestead. We love y'all. God bless you and goodbye.